Welcome to the Coffee with Phil and Jim podcast, where two guys drink coffee and talk about stuff. And now your hosts, Phil and Jimmy Nick.
In 3, 2, 1. Hey listeners, Phil here with the Coffee with Phil and Jim podcast. We're in the studio for another episode, and I'm here with my co-host.
You right. This is Jimmy Nick.
And we... oh man,
Gotta get you going.
we're in for another treat today. Tell you what. If you're new to our podcast and maybe you found us on Facebook or whatever, just want to let everybody know that's listening and remind everybody that you can hit us up on Facebook and Instagram. Search us up at Coffee with Phil and Jim. You can also email us at coffeewithphilandjim@gmail.com. And then also we're on YouTube, Spreaker, and the Apple Podcast app as well. So hit us up on those. If you want to start a conversation, you want to get in on a conversation, let us know. And we'll add to that discussion. So lots going on, lots happening. Summer's upon us, and so it gets pretty crazy around here. But we wanted to kind of go back like we kind of always do. We kind of end up on the idea of Acts 2:42.
2:42.
And we always that's always an undercurrent to what we talk about, because that's what we see New Testament church. We see first century church that way. And so we look at that, and there's a lot of questions we've got to ask. There's a lot of things we have to think through and look at the volume of the Bible as well. So there's a lot of things there. But today I wanted to kind of bring up some discussion about 242, and specifically later on in Acts, where you see the church, they were meeting house to house. And it seems like the house-to-house business is just not happening today.
Well, no, not here in America. There is one spot I know where it is working, and that happens to be in San Francisco with Jackie Chan.
Yeah.
He has 30 of them, I believe.
Yeah.
House churches.
Right.
And it's working that way. We're getting there. Last night we met. I mean, the church met last night. We met in different locations. Mm-hmm. But the church did meet last night.
Yeah.
And it was house to house. So we're starting to go in that direction. The thing about 242, once you see it and once you learn, see what this is all about and how it should be, just like Pastor said the other day, once you learn this, how in the world could you ever go back to the other?
Right.
Because now you know how it should be, so why would you want to go back to something else? I mean, this is the way it's supposed to work, and it is working. It's working within our group.
Yeah.
You know, and last night the people were excited about it. They liked being there. They liked each other's company. They liked discussing the gospel and the Bible verses we went through.
Right.
They were involved. They were engaged in it. And you see a whole different situation there than you do a bunch of people sitting around in pews doing nothing on Sunday morning except listening to a pastor preach. Mm-hmm. And so this is really, I mean, it makes you see how it's supposed to be and how it works. It works better.
Now, your group last night, when y'all met, I mean, y'all have got kind of eclectic mix, right? It's not just guys, it's not just girls, you know, it's not just certain age, right? I mean, you've got...
Right. Well, I mean, we got one kid in there that he's wondering, well,
what I get myself into?
I said, well, how'd I end up here? But no, he's a pure joy, and he contributes a lot to this.
Yeah.
And it's really good to see, too, in that. And yeah, we enjoy that, and it's we're learning.
Yeah.
And we're learning and we're growing in this. And that's what we're supposed to be doing anyway.
Yeah.
And as we grow, you know, we hopefully will take this out and start multiplying this situation and maybe start other groups someplace else, you know, and bring people in on the multiplication of it. this thing has potential to grow into something just, real sweet.
Well, in that kind of the goal, anyways, is the multiplication.
Right.
I mean, that's a lot different than someone church hopping or somebody, come from another church because they move, or, multiplication is really, it seems to be expanding. It's not just the churched, but it's the unchurched, especially.
Yeah, it's reaching those to the lost,
Right.
and bringing them in, and bring them in to be discipled and become, disciples of Christ, and they take the message too and go out and duplicate it, multiply it, and it's through that multiplication process we're going to reach the lost.
Yeah.
And that's the only way it's going to work, and it worked through 242 because then people had a genuine interest and a genuine love for each other and a genuine love for Jesus Christ. They were willing to lay down their lives for it because he laid down his lives for us. Mm-hmm. But like I was telling you earlier, we chase after the security, the safety and the security of the thing, and that's why the American church isn't moving. We hate to be persecuted. We don't want to be, and we don't want to face the fact that we might be, and we tend to run away from it. And that's basically what we've done in America for the last 200 years. We've run away from it. We sold Christ out for our safety and security. And so now we're paying the price for it. And you got a status quo, and nobody wants to get off the status quo. They like it. They like the safety and the security. But we're going to have to stop that. What is it going to take for us to move? That's the question.
Well, we've got. You can't move forward if you got stuff in your way, and maybe the American Christianity of things. There's just too much stuff in the way.
Well, there's a lot of stuff in the way. Yeah, it's crazy.
It's just we need to simplify it, and if everything is truly relational, why don't we just focus on those things that are biblically relational that actually work,
right,
instead of putting out all these new ideas that may work for a season, but they're not multiplying and they're fueling preference instead of actually doing something for the cause of Christ.
Well, you take it in 242. Why is it like that? Because it worked. Mm-hmm. But we come along, as back in the old days, we got to improve this,
Yeah.
And improving something you take something away from it. It doesn't get better with what we've done with it. This is what God did through them, through the Holy Spirit working, and they went and did exactly this. Then we come along with we got good ideas, nothing wrong with them, good ideas, but they're not God ideas.
Right.
And so that's where your problem is. We'll jump on the good idea when we could have the God idea, which is going to be 100 times better than what we're doing. And 242 works.
And like I said before, good always robs from the great.
Right.
And we do get comfortable with the good.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I like this. This works for me. This appeals to my wants, my flesh, things like that. Inevitably, if you're going to step out for Christ, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be messy. It's going to be with people, because ministers people. It's gonna stink, and maybe that's a big put off too.
Yeah, I don't think we really want to pay the price that it requires. I think if anything in our school of ministry, we ought to keep that up on the board in the corner there, just as a reminder, self, cross, and follow.
Yeah.
Just to keep it up there to say, hey, yeah, that's what it's going to take. And so we'd be reminded every week that that's what we need to do,
Right.
And until we get to that state where we're willing to, I don't know why we're not. What are we losing? We have everything to gain from this and nothing to lose. So it's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
We prefer the temporary safety and security other than we got eternal security in Him. So what's the trade-off here?
Well, and Jesus was really specific on what it takes to be a disciple.
Yeah.
Well,
if you're not willing to do those, He said, you're not fit. You're not willing to walk away from everything, family, whatever, If you're not willing to do that, then we're not fit to be His disciple.
Well, that's interesting you say family, walking away from that. Jesus said in Luke 14, 26, if any man come to me and hate on his father and mother and wife and children and brethren and sisters, yea, and his own life also, he cannot be my disciple.
Right.
And then whosoever doth not bear his cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. So people say it's ridiculous. You shouldn't hate your father. Well, not talking about not hate. It's not love, but there's not love there. But your love for Christ is way greater than that.
Yeah, it would be considered hate compared to how much you should love him.
Right.
You know.
Exactly.
I mean, they pale in comparison. How much we should love him compared to our own parents or whatever. You know.
But he says here, and his own life also.
Yeah.
You gotta hate your own life. That's unheard of.
Oh, in America?
Yeah.
We celebrate that. I mean, everything on TV is about me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, every commercial, everything. Me, myself, and I.
Yeah.
You know, three wise men. Me, myself, and I. Yeah.
Well, but like in 26 and 27, he talks about his hate your own life, but then and whosoever does not bear his cross and come after me, it's not just enough to hate your life, but you gotta have a death wish on your life. You gotta be able to say, I am willing to physically die.
Yeah.
For Jesus.
Well, what Christ has always done is, I laid down my life, are you willing to lay yours down? And that's basically what he's saying. Walk away from himself. Look, he walked away from himself and came here, in the form of a man. He had all that authority, but didn't exercise it. You know, he did what the Father told him to do. He was obedient even unto death for that, and it was for our good. But yet we look at it and go, well, but we're back to, I can't do that. You know? It might hurt.
Yeah, it might hurt, or it might hurt my opportunity to have things or to do certain things or whatever. Maybe that's something that stops us as believers, not just being a disciple, but being a Christian. You know, I don't know. I mean,
we're looking for the next best thing. Something new might come down the road that, we're not willing to go 100% because something new might come down the road that we like. Is that it?
All right, folks. Well, we're done with our podcast. Just kidding. No, I mean that's really something that I think we have to consider because, again, we live in comfort here in America. We, and people think that there are people that think that like because they have a promotion or something, that's the way to do it, and that's what God wants for you. God may not want a promotion, for instance. Just using as an example. If you're working a job and you're getting promotion, He may not want you to have that promotion. But for us as American Christians to think, well, why wouldn't He want me to have more? Well, maybe because that more becomes a god, becomes an idol.
Yeah, it could cause you to a downfall.
Yeah.
Because, you do exactly it. You're going to go after you're seeking what it wants. Mm-hmm. And it's more valuable to you than Christ is. Anything we put ahead of Him is ridiculous. It's crazy. But we do it. We all do it. Yep. I'm guilty. We're all guilty of it, But hopefully, prayfully, and if the Lord will be patient with us, that He will lead us. Holy Spirit will listen to the Holy Spirit and let Him guide us into the truth for which we're supposed to be living this. And that 242 is the way to go. Mm-hmm. And that the status quo of showing up on Sundays and giving Him an hour or two and then going home and hide yourself in the house and take your safety and security and not go talk to anybody about Jesus Christ. Just simply because it might rock the boat, and we don't want to rock the boat or mess up status quo. I mean, this is the way it is. The way it was with my grandpa and my great-grandpa,
Yeah.
Well, we've got to keep this going or something's wrong,
Well, it's funny you mentioned, grandpa or great-grandpa. There was something that happened that messed that up. It mixed it all up, and or maybe lots of somethings that happened where it was no longer about, when I guess it was a month or two ago now, maybe the first time I subbed in for the Senior Saints, and I remember asking the question, do you remember the days when, randomly you'd have Bob and Judy over and you'd eat dinner or whatever and play pinochle, or, you'd have those times where people were coming over your house, and sometimes many would even prepare, always have preparations for that just in case, Bob and Judy came by, said, "Hey, how's it going?" or whatever. And you had that time and you had that relationships. And
back in the old days, huh?
Yeah.
Black and white again.
Black and white TV.
Black and white TV.
And so you had those connections, you had those relationships, and you had an open communication, and people were transparent, and people helped out. And Bob needed some help on his mower, so you'd go over there and help him with his mower and whatever. And then the kids would connect, and kids were hanging out. And
you've been watching Leave It to Beaver, haven't you? That's it. Father knows best. You swear you've been.
Well, there is a station on over the air.
Well, welcome to the Twilight Zone here.
Some good television.
I tell you, man, this is.
It's really good.
I know what you're talking about. There was a sense of community there. I think in America we lost that sense of community.
Yeah.
People, they go to college and they go off to some job, like they may be from Oklahoma, but they take a job in California or New York or someplace else. And so these families are getting spread out all over the United States. Mm-hmm. They may see each other once or twice a year. And then wherever they're at, they really don't communicate with their neighbors around them. Mm-hmm. And they mainly keep to themselves, mostly, most people do. And they really don't, except maybe just the guy next door. Mm-hmm. And there's no sense of community even in that neighborhood. It's all a bunch of strangers living next door to each other. Mm-hmm. And that's the way it has become in this country. And it's all done because we don't walk anywhere. We drive every place.
Yeah.
And you can't carry a conversation on driving by somebody.
Unless it's road rage.
Not at 50 miles an hour unless you're giving them hand gestures for something they've done, But
yeah. You go, dude.
Learn that sign language,
That's right.
From Ken and Cindy,
Tell them you're number one.
But anyway, so.
Yeah, I think you said it, community.
Yeah, there's no community there. And if I'm seeing anything here, like from last night's meeting, and actually starting with the seniors on Friday nights, you're starting to see a connection starting to come in here between us. And we are starting to get close, I believe, closer together.
Right.
And we're starting to see each other, just not as, fellow church members, but as brothers and sisters in Jesus Christ.
Right.
We're becoming more of a family. And that's the way they were in the first century. And so when one bled, they all bled, Mm-hmm. One hurt, they all hurt. It was all. But now, it's me, myself, and I has been running everything for so long that it's hard for people to give that up. They don't want the closeness, because the closeness, if you get close, that scares people, getting real close to somebody, because then you kind of become responsible for them.
Yeah, well, and you're showing vulnerability to where if you share something that's close, what's going to happen from there?
Right, because a lot of people don't trust other people, plain and simple. So, if I say this, they're out to get me anyway.
Right.
Is that, what do you call that? They're speculating.
Yeah, yeah. Speculation.
Speculation there, they're out to get me.
Yeah, and that happens a lot, and there's just it seems like there's so much going on that keeps us from actually being house to house. Like, last night y'all study. There was another one going on. So y'all had to study at somebody's house. You had another one going on campus.
All right.
My wife and I were with a couple of folks last night. And you have this going on. See, the cool part, and what I really like about our church too is the preparation for Sunday is not what a typical preparation for Sunday is. Typical preparation is making sure the message is perfect, and making sure the music's perfect, and making sure that everybody's got their curriculum and things like that. Our preparation for Sunday is kind of starting to be a little natural thing during the week, where you're meeting and you have a spirit of worship on Sunday.
Right.
Because you've already been attached to God and His people all week long.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. One thing we got out of everybody that was present last night is we like the new. Mm-hmm. We like the way we come in on Sunday. So let's get the message out, and then let's worship.
Yeah, let's praise. Let's do that.
Let's get a mind towards that. Come in and get a mind towards that, which you can through the message, and then
right
get into worship.
It does, and it makes a big difference. It's really shown that.
Yeah.
You know.
And they all seem to like it, like the change. The ones that were there last night. I don't know if other people like the change or not. Right. I can't speak for everybody. Well,
I've heard a lot of great things. Of course, I don't know that I would hear anything negative, but I've heard some great things. And here's the scary part. But we are just. This is just the beginning.
Right.
This is not even. We're not even going full force. This is just the beginning and seeing what's happening.
Right.
You know, and it's just amazing to me to see that and be a part of that, because it's just.
Well, we were talking last night that with this change and everything, you're going to have a certain amount of people fall away from this because they don't want it. Mm-hmm. Like I said, they like status quo. Status quo don't cost you nothing, see?
Right.
Especially in this country. If we maintain the Christian status quo in this country, there's no cost to it. Mm-hmm. You know, minimal at most. You know, usually a few dollars out of your pocket, because that's how we measure cost in this country is by the dollar.
Yeah. Yeah.
Basically, we do. You know, we put the value on the dollar. Well, I gave all that. Look what I gave up. You know, but we don't give up our time or anything else. You know?
Right.
Because we treasured that to ourselves, and we're not willing to share it with other people.
Yeah, and maybe we do have so much going on. You know, maybe
we need to quit so much going on. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know, let's take and see what the priority is. If Jesus Christ is your priority, you know, like we was talking last night, the average person in America is household in America is 5.5 hours of TV every day. Now, are we giving Jesus Christ 5.5 hours a day? Are we reading the Bible for 5 hours a day? Are we doing anything for Christ for 5 hours a day? Right. But we'll sit in front of that idiot box and watch it all day long and all night long. And walking away feeling like we learned something. You know?
That's right.
But we did nothing for Christ, and we didn't do anything for ourselves in that respect either.
Yeah.
Because all we did was kill time.
Right.
Basically what we're doing. We like to be entertained.
Yep.
That's it. We're an entertainment generation.
And entertainment is it's so easy to.
I know, because you take that goofy old movie that come out there, it's a Avenger piece of junk.
Hold on, wait a minute.
This thing worldwide. Now, you tell me they got poverty all over the world and everything.
Hold on.
But people have actually spent over $2 billion to go see a movie. You know, think about it. $2 billion to go see a movie.
But it was an awesome movie.
It wasn't that awesome. It can't be that awesome. But people will spend $2 billion for that and gripe about putting $1 in the plate on Sunday. Yeah. So you tell me, what's the priorities at?
Well, let's take that train of thought too. You know, there's a country club mentality in churches, and not all churches, but a lot of churches, and it's the mentality of I give money or whatever, and I should get my preference.
Right.
Well, guess what? If you're a true church, nobody gets their preference.
No.
It's a God preference.
That's
it's what
right.
God wants. And so they put this money in. Well, I gave this much to missions, or I gave this much to this cause, or the building fund, or whatever. And they think they have a total say in it based upon how much money they give. So you take that mentality, right?
Yeah.
That seeps in from a worldly mentality that, well, you know, I spent the money to do this. I should be able to. It's not a country club. It doesn't work. It's not a business. Church is not a business either. Okay, you can't have all these things that a business has and a church for it to be truly effective. We got to simplify these things. I think there's too many committees. There's too many big things that are happening in churches that, because a lot of people showed up, it may be successful, and that's not where the true success lies. It's through discipleship. It's the multiplication. It's building committed followers, that shall build on. And it may be a little bit different here and there based upon your church location, what God wants you to do in that, because we wouldn't be doing the same. We would still be doing the same way if our church was in Alaska, but we would have to wear parkas or something. I mean, there'd be some differences, but the method doesn't change.
Yeah, that's true. Bring a polar bear to church or something with you.
What do you call a pit bull that lives in Alaska?
What?
A chili dog.
You get that from your daughter. Oh, chili dog.
Chili dog.
I tell you, man.
I read an article this morning. Did you know that one of the knights of the Round Table, King Arthur, he was a tax collector. Did you know that? His name was Surcharge.
Surcharge, man. Whoa, man. Are you getting your jokes from Benny Hinn or something? Oh, man.
Get no respect. Get no respect.
Oh, man. Right. I'll tell you what, I got a word for that.
That's awesome.
So Homer Simpson thing.
Nerd. Yep, that's me.
Anyway. Where were we? We were talking 242. All right.
Sorry, I got off track there. But yeah, we get into we're just in the beginning of this of first century church stuff. God intended it, and man, it's been fantastic. It's had a lot of its difficulties. There has been a lot of attack. Personally, as a church, you got to expect those things, and I think that's probably where we get churches, believers get so comfortable to not get out of that comfort zone and actually step out and do something for Jesus, because it will cost you something. Yeah, it's gonna take work.
Well, we spent 200 years trying to keep from costing anything. You think about it. What have we done in the Christianity in America? What, we hire missionaries to go to the countries for us. Mm-hmm. We hire a pastor and associate pastors and stuff. We bring them in. They're to go out and evangelize. Mm-hmm. Or they're supposed to wait till they come through the door and then evangelize them. And so we put the whole emphasis on, we don't want the responsibility. Mm-hmm. We hire people to do it. That's the American way, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, you want something done, you got to hire you some people to get it done, man.
That's right.
And then we all show up at the country club and say, man, yeah, look what my money bought.
What was it you said the other day? It was about the Walmart pickup. It's like,
what about the man? Talk about how lazy people are. Man. Come on, man.
It's like,
I mean, but that's right. I mean, we are so lazy, and or we just don't care. Maybe we don't care. Anybody just stop and think about it? Maybe really we just don't care.
Maybe so.
Maybe that's just the whole point. Maybe that's why we're not willing to die to self, take up our cross and follow, because we really just don't care.
Well, we care.
We care about ourselves.
We care about stuff, things,
Things, yeah.
But
don't touch my TV.
Yeah, that's right.
I'll break your hand.
Yeah, that's right. Didn't you and who was it? Jenny were telling me, like, back in the day, like when you would rent an apartment, they would give you like a microwave or a TV or something.
Well, they overbuilt there in Oklahoma City and up in the northwest part of town. So you had all these apartments that were built at the same time. Well, they had trouble filling them up, because they didn't have that many renters back then. And they built all these, and so they'd give you a microwave to move in or a color TV to move in. That was to get you to come to their place and rent an apartment. Yeah. Now, you know, they just give you a big bill, you know.
That's right.
And say, well, the deposit's $1,000.
Yeah.
Well, apartment ain't worth $1,000.
No. I lived when I was in college. I lived with a bunch of friends in an apartment, and our apartment was like $1,400 a month. Now split it that many ways. It was fairly inexpensive, and it was a nice apartment. But man, I couldn't.
Well, you talk about apartments, but you think about that old boy down in Texas. He was giving away brand new cars to get people to come to church.
Oh yeah,
you remember that?
Yeah.
You know, you had a new car each week, I think, something like that. You know, come down and win you a car.
I think they were all Kias though.
Yeah, they probably were. What's the old thing? The old thing that they quit selling in the United States. What's that thing from Yugoslavia? The Yugo.
Yugo.
Talk about a piece of junk.
Got some like throw up green Yugo out there. Oh,
there's your new car. Yeah. Might have to push it on.
We'll jump start it.
Yeah, we'll jump start it. Get her going. Get her going about 50, and it really kicks in.
Oh man, what was your first car?
My first car was a '63 Chevrolet Nova.
Wow.
Yeah, blew the engine up in it. Coming down Edmond Road about 100 miles an hour, and boom, you know. Yeah, that thing. I actually got that thing back to Bethany though.
Really?
Yeah, from Edmond Road. I mean, it only do 10 miles an hour.
But you got it there.
Got it back to the house, and well, you know, pulled the pan on it, and
wow,
there's pistons in the bottom of it. I don't know how I got home with it. I kept running, but it didn't throw her out. But it sure busted that piston all to pieces. I tell you.
Oh my goodness.
So, yeah, it messed it up real good.
My first car was a early '90s, like aqua blue Chevy Corsica.
Yeah, see that old Chevy. That was about 6 years old. 69. Yeah, 6 years old car. Yeah, well, that's the way it went. And I went out and got me another Chevy, a '61 Chevy.
Oh.
Yeah, '61 Chevy Bel Air, you know, 4-door, you know. Yeah.
Fancy.
Yeah.
Did you race in that? I mean, did
No,
you?
you couldn't race in that one. No. It was more of a family type car, you know. Now all my friends had all them hot rods, you know. But yeah, it was good. Had some good ones. Then I got a 71 Buick Skylark. Stripes down the side.
Whoa.
And it was had kind of a sports package to it.
Yeah.
And you get them stripes down the side, I noticed them Bethany cops tend to pull you over more. Well, where you going? What you doing? You know, you need to lay off the gas a little bit. Drive around the old '61 Chevy, they don't bother you. Put stripes on. If I'd have put stripes on that '61, they would have pulled me over.
That'd make an experiment.
Really.
What it was them Bethany cops really knew you. That's.
Yeah, well, yeah, and then they asked me. Well, they pulled me over. I had one pull me over one night and says, "So why'd you pull me over for?" Well, we've had trouble in the neighborhood. That's what they have to do with me. I live across the street from the police station. I lived across the street from the police station. What that had to do with me?
Yeah.
He was just checking us out. That's all.
Yeah.
Me and my buddies out. There wasn't nothing. There wasn't no trouble in the neighborhood.
I just went home.
Because me and my one buddy, we lived both of us lived across the street from the police station. So.
But you trouble me. Well, that's what they did. They saw you.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But that was a good time, though. Good times.
Good times.
Good times.
Back in the Jimmy Nick's racing days.
Back in the day. Now, they used to go out there across the bridge out here on 66 out there on this Overholser, across the river bridge. And if you mark it off from that county line sign there, go a quarter mile down, park, and wave them off. Quarter mile. You get a straight quarter mile.
Nice.
A lot of racing went on out there. Cops be out there the next day and hit all them old bike marks all up and down.
Gosh.
Do that today, they put you in jail.
Yeah. Probably worse.
Well, yeah, they probably would. I did have one guy I went to school with. He used to race at the old Oklahoma City Raceway out there at the Council Road and I-40. It was owned by that. I understand the guy died in the '90s, but he was a big-time NHRA dragster.
Huh.
Jimmy Nick.
Is that for real?
That's for real.
Oh.
Nix, Nix.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, he died. He owned that thing out there. And you had all them big ones, Big Daddy Don Garlitz and all them people. Don Perdome and what's her name, Chi-Chi. All them. They made a movie about her.
Did they really?
Yeah. Muldowney. Chi-Chi Muldowney. Yeah, this was big time stuff out there, And he would race out there, and he had this 64 Mustang that he had all ready to race and everything. He got over at 10th and May down through that stretch on the east side there by the fairgrounds, and he tromped it. He hit just over 100 miles, and when the cops got him, 100 mile an hour, he said, I thought I was going to get tickets, and they took me to jail. Dangerous driving. So,
that's funny.
Yeah, he said, you're going to get a ticket. They took me to jail. That's crazy.
Oh.
That's crazy stuff. But I think we're on the right track with this. There's a lot of people probably out there maybe listening to this may not agree with us. If they don't, how about letting us know?
Yeah.
We're willing to get a conversation started here, get their opinion on this.
Yeah, and let's have a conversation. We'll get you on the show. Even if you live in another state, we can get you in, via phone or something.
Something like that,
yeah.
Because, we're interested, we like to give our side to it, but we like to hear the other side too. Of course, we're right, but but we're always willing to listen.
Right, and this is something we have to talk about. This is something that...
Let's get a conversation going here.
Right.
Why do we feel this is that important? Mm-hmm. Why do we feel that this is the right way to go? Besides it's in Scripture.
Correct.
In Scripture, and that's the way they did it, and it worked. Because apparently it worked because we're talking about it.
Right.
And if it didn't work, we wouldn't be talking about it.
And now here I would probably throw this in here though with that invitation is, if you just want to debate, we're not going to debate with you.
No, we won't debate you on it.
We're not going to debate on it. Let's just talk about it. Let's go back and let's discuss this a reason.
If you're open to willing to discuss this and talk about it and see, hey, we might be able to help you,
mm-hmm.
Or whatever. But we'd like to know where you stand at on it.
Yeah.
But we're not going to debate it because we've already made up our minds that this is the way to go. It's what's in Scripture, and we're going to follow the Word. That's what we're going to do.
Do you think some people are kind of scared of something like this too because we've never seen this before? In our
lifetime or in the last 100 years?
Yeah. Well, maybe 200 years
or longer. If it even was happening then, actually,
right.
Because a lot of this, like I said, it all went by the wayside,
mm-hmm.
way back.
Well, and it also, because there was a point in time with the what do they call the Waldinians?
In French Baptist.
Yeah, I can't. Waldinians, something like that. Anyways, where it seemed to kind of go towards, people were before that were getting trained and taught and stuff in their church, and then it became a school type thing where you send somebody off to school.
Yeah, I agree with the pastor on this that we should you should be trained within the church. That's what they did in the first century. Mm-hmm. They created people out of their own and sent them out. They didn't send them off to some school to get somebody else's ideas or theology. Right. And then you train them and you send them out. You train them to make ministers out of them, and you also train them to be pastors and everything else. That should come out of the local body of believers. Mm-hmm. And, it should be self-sufficient in that, and that we don't have to go outside, but we do it because if we're growing and we're multiplying, we ought to have plenty of options there.
Yeah.
And plenty of people to choose from.
For sure,
and plenty of people that we could ordain and send out even, to other churches.
Well, if you think about our church, we have, 12, 13, 14 of those right now that, really probably could easily go and...
Yeah, could go do that. And then how many ministers we got?
Yeah, we got a bunch of ministers. We're all ministers.
In fact, I believe we were talking about last night? Ministers of reconciliation?
Yeah.
Or was that what he was talking about Sunday night?
I don't know.
I don't know. It was all Sammy the Bull anyway. So.
Sammy the Bull.
Sammy the Bull. Yeah, but we are that.
Yeah.
And we should be doing that, and we're not doing it. So obviously there's something wrong. There's something we haven't put the switch on it yet.
No.
But hopefully through this process, light will come on, and we'll go do what we're supposed to do. And
yeah,
we can do it for the cause of Christ. That's what we should be doing it for anyway. And not for our own gain or anything else. It's for Him. He's paid the price. I get eternal life for what He did for me. And if I can't lay down my life for Him, then maybe I've got a problem.
Well, how selfish in that itself. You know, He laid down His life for me, and I can't lay down my life for Him.
Well, I think one of the biggest problems we have in that, I think, is that you got 2,000 years between it, almost 2,000 years between when it actually happened and now. Mm-hmm. And I don't think people can really relate to that in that period of time. They're looking at something as ancient. A lot of people do.
Good point, yeah.
2,000 years ago, well, that was then, But that comes back to relationship, though. He is alive.
Yeah.
And if you got a relationship with it, you'll experience Him every day in your life in some form or another. And you can walk with Him, you can talk with Him. And before that, we were just lost. Mm-hmm. And He provided a way back to the Father. And as the pastor says, that friendship that God wants with His people, He wants a friendship. He wants us to be His friend. Mm-hmm. And man, we just aren't willing to pay the price for the friendship.
Yeah, and we can actually get into talking about that too, the friendship portion of that, because the idea of who knows how to make friends anymore.
Well, that's for sure. Or what do you call a friend? You take people on Facebook and stuff. I got 1,000 friends out here. Really? 1,000 friends? Yeah. They all know me by my Facebook name.
Yeah. Well, Sammy B, he's got what, 2,000 friends?
I don't know. I think he's at 500,000 or something like that. I think he's kind of bragging on that one though. But But anyway.
Yeah, that's. And I think we've talked about that before.
Yeah, we have. But how many close friends you got? How many people that would be willing to lay down their life for you?
Right. And that's a.
And if it comes down to it, I think basically I got to look at my own self and say, if anything has to be with Christ in that, if there's been anything I have been, it's probably been selfish. Mm-hmm. And I'm having to deal with that right now. I got a selfish streak in me. I admit it. Mm-hmm. The only way I'm going to overcome this is through Him, and understanding that of what He's done for me in my life. And I need to quit putting self first. I want to die to self. I want to give it up. Because what good does it do me?
Yeah.
Eternally, it does me no good.
Right.
I want to serve Him, but I still have that struggle because self still wants to get in there, and I can be very selfish about that.
Yep.
That because in America we're told you got to look out for number one. And it's all about number one, taking care of yourself. Mm-hmm. You can get you one of them tapes, whether it's a self-affirmation, I am a beautiful person, and staring in the mirror and all that stuff, I am a good person, now we're not, but
yeah.
But that's it. It's all about and that's what we sell in this country, self-help books. And then you can walk into any church in America, and I don't care if it's charismatic or Baptist or whatever, you're going to find some preacher somewhere on a Sunday morning up there telling you how through the Word you can get some self-help.
Yeah.
And we have. A lot of it is about self-help.
Right. How
to overcome anxiety. How to overcome, how to have joy. What's in the Word?
Right.
You know how to have joy? Have a relationship with it. Mm-hmm. That relationship, if you concentrate on Him, if you put your mind on Him and you focus on Him and you live in your life with Him and through Him and all this stuff is happening, you're going to find that peace. You're going to find that joy because you're in that relationship. The closer you get to Him, you want joy and peace, but get it because of the relationship, not because, I just want to feel good about stuff.
Right.
And go on about what I'm doing,
Right.
If you're just looking to feel good, they can self-medicate or something.
Yeah.
You know, because it's going to be about the same thing. You know, but you miss the relationship. I had problems with that. I did have problems with that, you know, until I was brought in to understand the relationship, and I started having a relationship with him, a close relationship. It changed my whole outlook on everything.
Yeah, it does naturally.
It does. I mean, and you feel good. You feel good because you're with him.
Yeah.
You know, it's a whole different thing. You know, people are all miserable. People sit in church pews. I bet every Sunday just miserable as can get. You know,
Yeah.
and there's no reason to.
Nope.
I mean, once you get to know him, and like in my life, I've seen how he has worked in my life and how he has brought about that change, and that, you know, if there's anybody I can trust, it's him. It's him, period, because he's never failed me at all. I fail him all the time, but he's still there. He's still patient. He's still faithful, still understanding, and he puts up with it.
Yeah.
He loves me. He loves me, and I know that.
Yeah, but and it's the love that we should be giving others too.
Right. Because his love we should share with others. That agape love, it should flow in vertical to horizontal. And we should be, because he told us to love each other.
Right.
And that's what we should be doing. And that's what I think 242 helps bring that about. Don't you?
Oh, most
because
definitely.
the closer we get and the more we learn each other and the more we get closer to God in this and closer to Christ in this, that love is going to develop, I believe. It has to.
I think that's a natural progression.
It's a product of it.
Yeah.
You know, you get closer to Christ, things happen. You know, but don't seek the, you know. But people go out and they'll seek the joy. They'll seek you know, peace and stuff like that. But they're not seeking Christ.
Right.
You know, like I said before, you can pray all day and not have peace. But you can walk with him, have peace all day long, and the building's burning down, and still find that peace in the middle of it. You know, it's really crazy how that works, but it does.
Yeah,
and it's amazing.
Because God orchestrated that. God created us.
Right.
God created all this.
Yeah.
The method, everything. If we just do the way He says to do it,
Right.
but over so many, you know, centuries.
Right.
It gets muddied. It gets crazy. So the method is no longer full out what Christ intended it to be. It's sprinkled with all kinds of worldly stuff.
Good ideas, but not God ideas.
Right.
That's what we've been dealing with in the church.
Good ideas and not God ideas. That's Holy Spirit led.
Right. And it has to be the Holy Spirit.
Right.
Because, you know, we can't do nothing on our own. It's got to be the Spirit. If He's not doing it, then it's all in vain. Right. Everything's in vain, you know. If we're trying to do this on our own, apart from the Holy Spirit, it's all in vain. It won't work. It can't work. It wasn't meant to work. It just won't work. You know, I imagine what it was before Adam and Eve pulled the plug on us there. But you imagine what peace and joy there was in the garden. I mean, man, and have no idea of what sin was, or pain, or anything else. What a pure joy that was, and to be in His presence all the time.
Yeah.
And to walk away from that for some fruit on a tree, or to think you're going to be as smart as God, know the difference between good and evil. You don't want to know the difference between good and evil.
No.
Well, I think we found out.
Yeah.
And it's very costly.
Boy, have we.
Oh, man. So.
Man, oh, man. Well, guys, if you want to join this conversation, again, a lot of our conversations here on our podcast is Acts 2:42. It is discipleship. It is first century church. It is these things. There's underlying tones of these things. And so we talk a lot about this. And I know that we have listeners. We have a lot of listeners that listen to this podcast and probably have questions. Probably have to hit us up. Email us, coffeewithphilandjim@gmail.com. Direct message us at Facebook and Instagram. Comment on our YouTube page. Whatever. Getting connected with us. And again, we're not here to debate. We're not here to argue. We want to have this conversation. This is something that we have, as Christians, need to talk about, as believers, as churches, because the cause of Christ is at stake. Over 7 billion people in the world, and that's our job. And if we want to be effective in reaching those people for Christ and discipling them and multiplying those efforts as Christ intended, we have to do it like he tells us to do it, which means we have to die to ourselves. We have to get out of our own way. And so there's a lot more to that. There's a lot of things that Jimmy, Nick, and I, we're taught, we talk about that's not necessarily on the podcast, but that cooperates with what we talk about. There's a lot more detailed. And again, this is a conversation, so sometimes we get down to it, sometimes we don't. But the overall concept is, hey, look, we have a job to do. Let's follow Christ. Relationships. Let's do this the way God wants us to do. And Christ died. I mean, come on, let's get down to the nitty gritty of that. So join the conversation. Hit us up, Facebook, Instagram. Email us, coffeewithphilandjim@gmail.com. Get in contact with us, and we'd love to maybe even have you as a special guest. We'll phone you in, we'll Skype you in, or FaceTime. If you're coming through the Oklahoma area and you want to be a special guest, hit us up, and we can probably make that happen as well. So
that's right. Maybe we need a new slogan. I don't know. What kind of new slogan do you think? Something like, maybe somebody's eternity depends on this.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
What we do, somebody's eternity may depend on it. So we'll come up with some kind of slogan for that.
Okay, that sounds good.
Now, we're going to end this up today?
Here we are.
I believe so. Okay, well, you're from that place south of Oklahoma. What do they call that place? Texas.
The great state of Texas.
Yeah, you can call it that. I mean, you were, I don't know. I forgot it. But there's a little gal from down there from, I believe, around Wichita Falls, a singer named, that's where she's originally from. I think she does a lot with Willie Nelson, but her name is Kimmy Rhodes. I don't know if you've ever heard of her. But she's from Texas, so I figure when she wrote this song and sang it, she sang it about Texans. So I figure this song has nothing to do with Okies. It all has to do with Texans. The Texans, remember.
Okay.
So this is for Texas. Well, it was. Yeah, come on. Thing froze up on me. There we go. Nope. Hold on. YouTube got me. There we go.
Born in a barn. We all got born in a barn. One little piggy went to market. One never left the farm. The cats got fat. The dogs got old. The ducks sang songs till the cows came home. Every little critter's got a world of his own, but we all got born in a barn. And one hog's never is another's forever. Cast your pearls, you'll see. Our whole lot'd be a whole lot better if all the piggies stick together. Born in a barn, yes, we all got born in a barn.
Come up under there.
Everyone started with nothing, no matter who they are. Dream your dreams, there's always hope. So don't let nothing get your goat. And don't be a chicken, 'cause don't you know we all got born in a barn.
All right, that's for this great state of Texas.
Whatever.
Y'all got born in a barn. This is Jimmy Nick.
And this is Phil.
And adios.
Next time.